Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers! Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to our SpoilerCast on Infinity Train, Book 2, The Cracked Reflection. Yeah. All right, folks. So this is our first animation podcast of the new decade, Dragon. Feels good to be back in the driver's seat with this stuff. The Owl House has just debuted on the Disney Channel, and I've been hearing really good things about that. Our good friend Claude Karinga joining us here in the chat wants us to review that, and we will probably do so in the near future. But for tonight, Dragon, we've got to talk Infinity Train because, of course, it came out last week as a 5-part event, or I should say, this is the tail end of the week, but it came out this past week. It's a 5-part event, 2 episodes a night, just like Over the Garden Wall and Infinity Train Book 1 that preceded it. And Dragon, just to get our theses out of the way, I gotta tell you, I thought the first couple episodes of this were a little rough, and I think you and I have the same sentiment. But once it got going, it really got going, and I think this season is definitely I don't necessarily think it's better than the first season by any means, but I do think that thematically it is very strong. I like the characters a lot. I do think the new characters grew on me a lot over time. I honestly think some of the concepts are even better than the concepts we got in book 1. I think some of the standalone trains are really creative. We'll get into some of them. I do think there's a couple episodes here and there that, are a little bit fillery, but overall I had a really good time with this season. I don't quite think it's up to like an Over the Garden Wall level. That's my gold standard for Cartoon Network, folks, as Dragon is aware, but it's very solid, Dragon. It's very solid. The animation's great, the storytelling's good, music's great. Altogether, very satisfying package.
Yeah, Infinity Train Book 2. So this demonstrates the potential of the Infinity Train concept very well. As Tiki and I are very simpatico with, it definitely starts off a little rocky, but once it finds its groove, it gains momentum and it's full steam ahead. How appropriate. It is. The big question is, how do how to take season 2, like as a continuation of the anthology, or a pure conclusion to the Tulip story via this MT character. Because if you look at the book titles, because now they've added titles to them. How quaint!
Right.
Season
it's like
1
a New Hope all over again, Dragon. We're getting a title after the fact.
Season 1 has been renamed The Perennial Child. With the whole
which is really cool. Really cool.
Compliments the whole perennial flower naming of Tulip, and we have Cracked Reflection. Of course, these very much reflect the characters that are the focus of the season, and again, it makes me wonder. Basically, we don't have like a hey, get ready for the next season at the end of this. We know how fickle Cartoon Network can be at times. I don't know if this is going to be it. I think it's performing well enough. I think we might get a third one, but it wasn't like an instant there's going to be more at the end of this. So,
I honestly don't know where we could go with it after this, because of course they did fulfill my my hope for this, and that we saw no Tulip at all. Dragon.
Yeah.
Tulip's storyline is concluded.
They found a great loophole with it.
We did, yeah, absolutely. I didn't want to see any more regular Tulip. RT, we'll call her, I guess. To Rotten Tomatoes.
MT gets mirrored.
No, I'm saying real Tulip.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, I got you. Okay, I got you.
So in that way, they definitely lived up to what I was hoping for in terms of a continuation. I think Mere Tulip was a very logical way to go. I think the new characters they have are pretty good for the most part. I like that 1-1 does show up from time to time. He has a small but important role. I got to admit, would have liked to seen a little bit more Corgi action, Dragon.
I know. Well, we mentioned Atticus, but
we got to mention, but
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I love that.
If any character besides 1-1 could have returned, it would have been him.
I'm sorry, Tiki. Ernie Hudson costs money. All right.
All right.
So
he's with Dan Aykroyd selling Crystal Skull vodka. No, he's not. He's got more class than Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, come on! Don't be harsh. We all like Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, but he's a nut.
Anywho. Okay,
All
point
right.
being, whether you take this as a conclusion or a continuation, it's pretty solid. A little bumpy at the start, pretty solid. Okay, let's just dive right into it. We're going to break down the 10 episodes. Going to go by like that.
Okay, so chapter 1, the black market car. I thought this was a solid enough introduction. Of course, we start like the first half of the episode kind of following Mir Tulip and sort of getting her perspective on things. I will say I thought that the actual car wasn't the most interesting one to start with. Do you agree with me on that?
Well, remember, it's really, we kind of use the cars in this one, kind of like we did in the first season, only in this case, some of them are more just in name only. Like, we start in the black market car, now we just move forward past it.
Yeah, it's a little more fast and loose. I mean, and honestly, I feel like my favorite episodes are still the ones that very much stick to the confines of the car it's named after for the most part.
Which is true. That's pretty much kind of what the first one did, but it's, I guess, a little bit of a payoff. Like, sometimes we'd start in a really out there car, then we'd end up in the money car of the episode.
Of course, yeah. So, okay, so first of all, I do think that, help me out here. One of them is Ben Mendelsohn. Who's the other one?
Okay, so here, I love these guys so much. Okay, these are the Flux. Yeah. Now you have,
the Flux, right.
You have Mace is Ben Mendelsohn. Mace is the one with the hat, who's the bad cop, if you will. And we have Steve. Steve is the Bradley Whitford good cop.
Right.
We have Steve and Mace.
So these guys, I definitely think that they do serve as the antagonists of the season, to be sure. And oh man, they're great. Especially Mendelsohn, man.
I remember in season 1, I told you I'd love just the whole spinoff for these guys, and I kind of got it with this.
I mean, I will say that they are like the way more cool version of stormtroopers to me.
Well, sure. It's like, what if you gave stormtroopers, like, what if that traitor guy that Finn fought in Force Awakens, what if we give that guy a little bit more, a little bit more of a backstory, a little more of a runner? Like, it's kind of like that, you know? It's like,
right.
What if we took that guy and Captain Phasma and actually gave him stuff to do? Anyway, but yes, I love the Flex. I wanted them. I got my wish. It's the Great Pursuers. The greatest gimmick in the whole thing is that they can appear in any reflections. Such a cool idea. Such a great runner. And of course, this episode 1 establishes our status quo and our 3 new characters. So,
sure.
Mir Tulip, again, the loophole that gets us more Tulip and more Ashley Johnson. Man, I love Ashley Johnson too. Don't want to undersell her, of course. Many people know her from Blind Spot. Many people probably first remember her from Captain America Saved My Life in Avengers. That was her.
Oh, God, that's right.
Yeah. Everyone has to start somewhere, folks. Not all of us are proud enough to say we started in Marvel. Anyway, point being, so she's definitely trying to be her own person. She's in a very unique situation in that, you know, she got to. It's such a unique situation that, you know, she's not Tulip, but she's also, you know, her own thing, and she's not exactly a reflection. She's not bound by the mirror rules. Again, she's just really it's a really interesting place that she finds herself in. Such a unique.
The big beat of this season, the big heart of it, the heartbeat at the center of it, thematically, Dragon, is self-identity.
Absolutely.
And I think she represents that very well. And I also think, you know, pun very much intended, she does have her story does kind of have a mirror image with the other main character of the season.
Absolutely. And again, we literalize that as well as show that all throughout.
Right.
So let me tell you. So here's of course, the first episode started off a little bumpy, and here's where let me address the first bump, as it were.
Okay.
So we go from the black market to kind of the Salif, which we revealed to be kind of the tree car, and we meet Alan Dracula.
All right, Alan Dracula took a while to grow on me, but when he did, I was in love with him by the time the season was over, so that's where I kind of stand on it.
Yeah, he was an initial big sticking point by this first episode. I grew to accept him.
The first couple episodes, you don't really understand him. Yeah. It takes a while for you to catch on to the gimmick with him, I think.
Precisely. I think he really, in the grand scheme of things, he really comes alive in episode 5, I believe. Yeah, in the Parasite episode, but we'll get there when we get there.
Well, I mean, quite literally, he comes alive in this episode.
But basically, you know, it's all the possibilities of his power and everything. And but initially, you know,
just in terms of sheer animation and creativity, I love what they do with his powers. I'm just saying, like, it took a couple episodes for that to really start to come to the forefront.
But also, the other character that we're introduced to, it took a while for him to come alive for me too, Jesse. Jesse and Alan Dracula were initial hard sells for me, and they were like, okay, so I'm going into Infinity Train. I'm thinking, okay, maybe we'll probably see Mira Tulip. I didn't know how big a role she was going to have, mind you. So, okay, probably going to see Mira Tulip. And, okay, infinite possibilities of a protagonist, like the next person with problems we're going to follow, Aiken the Tulip, the real Tulip. And of course we have Jesse, and this first introduction to Jesse is like, okay, I'm not quite seeing what's so special about this guy. Just
all right. So here's the thing with Jesse for me. I like him. I don't think he's nearly as compelling of a main character as like regular Tulip was in season 1. But obviously, I feel like thematically what they're going for, Dragon, and I definitely knew kids like this in high school. I was best friends with one of these kind of kids in high school, is these kids just, they want to please people, man. They're people pleasers at their own expense.
Yes.
And that's why I feel like in terms of thematic quality to the season, I think Jesse does that a lot, because he really is, Jesse's whole theme this season is struggling to become his own person, not just doing things to fit in with a crowd. And I do think that thematically that's very rich.
And absolutely that connects with Mira Tulip.
I just feel like the problem is I don't really start to buy Mira Tulip and Jesse's bond until episode 4.
Well, likewise, that's where he comes alive for me, but it's...
absolutely.
Sorry, so we're kind of reflecting each other as this conversation goes forward. I'm noticing.
Right.
But so season,
I do think the first few episodes with Jesse, it's kind of just like, okay, like I get what they're going for with this character. I've definitely, he's relatable in terms of like I've known people like this, but it's not really grabbing me. It's not like an instantly lovable character in the same way Tulip was.
It basically felt like a weird pairing out the gate from the first. Okay, we have Mira Tulip, I'm sold on instantly because, already built an interesting character concept. And then we have just like, okay, a deer with powers of all kinds of deer.
And I will say, as much as I like Alan Dracula by the end of the season, he's no Atticus.
What I'm saying, he's no Atticus.
I mean, I do like him a lot, and we'll talk about him and how he goes through the season, but he's no Atticus.
Like, we don't have like a carrying a corgi across the water gag in this with Alan Dracula. That's what I'm saying. But basically, that's what in conclusion for episode 1, we established season 2 as a buddy story, as kind of a buddy adventure of MT and Jesse essentially, and we end on Alan Dracula falling. So I will say, as the big benefit season 2 has, and they definitely learned it from season 1, is we're going to play with the short form. Each of our episodes definitely have like a big hook that people have to see what the next one's all about.
Sure.
Oh God, we dropped the deer. And mysteriously at the end of the episode, we want to find out it's a deer with a funny name. Gosh darn it, we gotta figure out what happened to him.
All right, so speaking of which, we come to my least favorite episode of the season. At least they get my least favorite episode done with early. We have the family tree car.
I'm being freaked out here because this also is my least favorite.
Oh, man. Now, Dragon, what you were saying about Mira Tulip and Jesse not having a great dynamic, it's very much illustrated here, man.
Yeah.
I was watching this episode and I was like, I mean, obviously it's going to, where they're leading. It's going to be, we've seen cartoons before. It's the classic, like, oh, they don't get along at first, but they're going to be best friends by the end. But man, they really make Mira Tulip cantankerous in this episode, man. I mean, I don't know.
I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up just kind of the just the irony of we have a character who has a shaved head who has befriended someone named Jesse.
Oh God, no!
And they do go on a journey in which they grow.
Oh God, Jesus Christ! All right. You get the one version.
I know. I wanted to get the one in there somewhere, and I figured while we're on the infancy of the journey. Okay.
Anyway, so yes. The family tree car also, I just think the whole it's the two feuding families. It's like, yeah, we've kind of seen that before in a lot of other cartoons. Nothing too original there.
Yeah, we've seen it handled a lot better in a recent Netflix Christmas.
I'm not just talking about that. Yes, it's all that makes it on the mind. Yes, but the fact of the matter is it's kind of a cliche in animation in general.
Yeah, and there's no resolution, so it's just kind of pointless.
Right. So I just think conceptually it's not great. I think character-wise, this is definitely the least likable that both of the main characters come off as.
Because Jesse was really wishy-washy, Mr. The Peacemaker shtick we were giving him. It's, I will say
I don't really think we need to elaborate on this episode too much. I really don't feel like there's a lot of reason for it to even be here, to tell you the truth.
Well, there's just one thing on the rewatch that did dawn on me. I feel I should mention. So the message, I do respect. I think see where they're going for with the message here. Outside the obvious, okay, they don't like each other. They make nice by the end of it. But it's like the more we visualize as well as we say, the more you argue. The more you argue and feud, you stagnate, as in you become a tree, as in you become kind of frozen in place. You don't grow at all, versus kind of you move forward and you grow, which is what they need to do to get out of there. I do kind of like the message there, and the big lesson for Jesse here, which again, as we now know later in the season, the big lesson for him in the overall arc of the season is, you can't appease a group. Which again is a huge thing for him. Oh, a little fun fact though is because this actually has a real big payoff later. There's a little Pinocchio joke. There's a really cute Pinocchio joke in this. Saying, "Oh, they're gonna call me Pinocchio." No, they're not. Okay, actually, they probably are. Which there's a big Pinocchio themed episode later on. And there's actually a couple of vaguely Pinocchio things in this season, so I thought it was kind of funny. But I don't know if it's by accident or what.
The Pinocchio stuff is maybe like a better version, a better kind of like AI, where it's like, oh, we're doing something else to fill in for a puppet with the real person thing.
Yeah, sure. Also, we get the runners of Tulip with the metal, MT with the metal skin. Therefore, she can do things like not exactly super strength, but super durability. Let's call it. And the flick, man, I love the flick run.
I love the runner of the flick. Yes.
Okay, so that's 2.
All right. Chapter 3, the map car. It's a little bit fillery, but we have Wayne Knight, and that automatically makes it better.
Yeah, it's better than just weird tree people. I think we could.
Right. I mean, Wayne Knight is kind of delightful in this episode. I mean, I love Wayne Knight whenever he pops up. Don't get me wrong, but I love, and I do love the episode conceptually. I think it's a lot more interesting than the tree episode.
The aesthetic is a lot better. It's a lot better.
Yeah. I love the aesthetic, and I also love the idea of filling in the blank parts of the map. And he needs adventurers to do that, and in order to fill in the blank parts of the map, he needs them to stay with him to do the adventuring, and thus they can't leave the car. All that was really cool, honestly.
Yeah. It's and basically, I'm convinced on the rewatch that basically this Cloud's big, his big Marcel's big. His big purpose within all this is that he blows the sail so they can get from point A to point B, which is what you do. You illustrate things on the map sometimes. One of the illustrations come to life being the idea there. And it's he just lives to blow that sail. So he's really, he starts the adventure and he's there to blow the sail. That's his role in the map that he wants to fulfill.
Well, if you think about it, Dragon, I'm just kind of putting the pieces together on this right now. But in some ways, I don't want to say that every single person we meet along the way this season is going through some sort of existential crisis, but certainly him and certainly the character that we meet next are both dealing with that in some extent.
They are. So, a big takeaway I had on the rewatch was, we're trying. One, we have this great gag where MT is trying to force the. This is a great. Okay, now we're doing season 2. Now we've kind of tested the waters. We've said what our premise is in season 1. We kind of know what it is now. Now MT is voicing this. She's trying to force Jesse to learn so they can get the season over with faster, which is a really great, funny meta idea. Make sure you learn some lessons along the way. That's where Ashley John's just killing me. Oh god, it's hysterical. And
she might do it a little too well, given what happens with the big plot twist.
I know. The big matchstick moment. We'll get there.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh, it's definitely a matchstick moment for sure.
So basically, the lesson here is you can't force growth. You can't force growth, and I like how we set up on the slide. We name drop the brother a little bit here. That Jesse has a little brother named Nathan, which is going to come into play big time in a really important episode coming up here. We also say Jesse is a swimmer. He's very he was on the swim team, which is also going to be it's also kind of important here. And let's see. So Marcel, I would imagine Marcel's breakdown. The breakdown he has of the episode examines the dark side of the Infinity Train. This counting your earlier point, Tiki, is that he's a fixture of the train that is going mad, which kind of foreshadows MT's arc, where again you have your role in the train, but that's kind of a maddening existence in an infinite train where you're going to keep helping people, but nothing for yourself, and you're kind of landlocked in your purpose, which you kind of lose your. Basically, you're just fulfilling a purpose, but not living a life. That's kind of the bumper sticker of the season. Let's call it.
Exactly.
Oh no! Yeah, the paper solution to. I love that they just draw the door on the. It's great, just aesthetically. Like this is good, but we're going to get into the great territory with the next one. Okay.
All right. So yeah. Oh, absolutely. We're getting into great territory with the next one. The Toad Car. Oh man.
Oh boy.
This was the first great episode of the season.
Yes.
To be sure, and it might be my favorite of the season, honestly.
Likewise.
Keep in mind, Drag, I just want to point out, I literally did this as a 2-hour binge right before we went on air, so all this is very fresh in my head.
See.
But so yeah, the Toad Car, man. Conceptually, it's great. This is probably my favorite car that we've ever had throughout the 2 seasons of Infinity Train. In all honesty,
it is. I mean,
it's just this big white purgatory, and you know exactly how to get out of it. But it's a big moral quandary.
The only way you make it worse is if you have to kick like Kermit the Frog. That's the only way you make it worse. but yes, it's great. You know, this is definitely one of the all-time great cars. I mean, I love that little prize car we had last season, though. I mean, that was really the jiggle wiggle and all that. But yeah, seriously, this is a really good one. Yeah, so we kind of basically
don't kick me.
Please don't kick me.
I just love that, he just legitimately is just they go out of their way to just be like, okay, yeah, this poor little guy really does not want to be kicked. Like, you are going to feel bad if you kick him.
It's just so funny. but yeah, so he's just basically our characters are chased into a bottle episode in essence. Where,
pretty much, yes.
Again, this is where the season really came alive for me, and I think for all of us. Here's where now we're getting to the introspectiveness. Basically, this is what Infinity Train's all about when it's firing all cylinders, man. Where we take a moment. You would take a moment for Jesse and MT to kind of hash out their differences, because basically MT's been like, oh, hey, and God, we're being chased, let's run. Of course, Jesse has no idea what's going on here. Like, why is everyone looking in a reflection now being chased by guys? So now, basically, the fact that she's kind of the die-hard persuasion, like, I'll explain on the way. That's sort of the age-old action kind of stuff. Like, I'll explain on the way, but that time never comes. Because that's the fascinating thing. Dua Ball, she is a physically reflective character. She does not like to reflect on things. And she does not want to be, she doesn't want to basically share her business.
Uh-huh.
So that's the thing. So she doesn't want to reflect on herself and her actions, which ultimately, you can remember, if you want to look at it this way, if she does reflect on herself and her actions, it would lead to her demise, because then the Flux would come out. They sand her to death.
God.
If you want to look at it that way. So we learn that there's a bit in the episode. I was already liking the Toad thing, but there's a bit where like, okay, now we're in the end game here.
Is it the good cop, bad cop thing?
That was great, but right before that, the phone video.
Okay.
The phone video is like, Jesse's come alive for me as a character. Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say end game, but I mean, I certainly would say that is absolutely I would say the end of Act 1, all right, sure. Everything's been established. We know what we're fighting for here.
Yeah, that's the better way of putting it. I meant now we're in the storytelling, now we're in the good stuff now. Okay.
Now we're in the thick of it.
Yes, so we learned Jesse's reason for being on the train. I love how we learned it. It was on the phone and everything, and it was it's a little video that tells you everything. We knew the context. We don't need him telling anybody. We just see that, and it's basically for us, the audience, to infer and just say, okay, I get it now. Where basically he caved to peer pressure, probably from his people-pleasing habits to kind of let him with a bad crowd. Now he just kind of caved to peer pressure, and we see the physical, emotional abuse kind of directed towards his brother Nathan. Unfortunately, that he didn't intend for, but he was still he's complicit towards. He made it happen. He is definitely he made it happen. Also, I'm pretty sure Scott Menville was the most vocal of the bullies, and I got to tell you, it's not helping me with my continual hatred of Scott Menville characters, not Scott Menville. Just
right.
It's current, because every time Teen Titans Go is on TV, I just want to punch my TV.
Oh God.
Anyway. Sorry. Anyway, point being is like, of course, the bully, and it's like that's what he's playing these days. That Scott meant was bullies. Anyway, sorry, off my soapbox. Back to the episode. So yes, good cop, back up. Steve playing good cop here as Mace is getting the lawbreaker, which is this awesome kind of battering ram jaws of life thing that they have in the mirror world. But yeah, Steve, man, Bradley Whitford, he's playing he's doing what he does best here. He's playing good cop with Jesse. He's like, hey son, how you doing in there?
Yeah, he's doing it flawlessly, man.
I gotta wonder though. I do wonder if he meant what he said. That okay, I'll make an exception. We won't sand her. Which again, they probably would have forced.
Oh, I don't think so.
You don't think he was being genuine?
No, not at all. The whole time, I mean, especially because he's smiling to the Ben Mendelsohn character like the whole time that's going on.
It's entirely possible. I think it just shows how convincing it is that you have I mean, if you were on the other side,
the scary thing for me with this guy is that he's I feel like he's very obviously lying, but he's doing such a good job with it, and it's so effortless for him.
But also, we've established since the beginning, this guy is the more even-keeled of the two of them, so that's why it's even more believable. But again, obviously, it's there's going to be a double cross. But still, it's the fact that again he made it convincing, though. It's that's the danger of Bradley Whitford. If you've seen Get Out, you know how dangerously charming Bradley Whitford can be.
Anyway. I voted for Obama.
If I could have voted for him for a third time, I would. So, by the way, he was hysterical on the Critics' Choice Awards tonight. By the way,
was he? Nice.
Yeah, he had he was a presentee for one of them. He was just basically did I think he made fun of Ricky Gervais I don't give a crap sort of presentations. Anyway. So Alan Dracula provides a really great solution at the end of things here, where Alan Dracula essentially, the Toad's like, kick me. It always boils down to kicking the Toad. Kick me right in the Gracelands. Anyway, so he just backs up there and basically in fear, oh God, they're both going to kick me. Okay, what do I get to kick happy? Anyway, so Alan Dracula kicks him on reflexes. You never get behind a deer or a horse or anything with 4 hooves. And essentially, Toad gets kicked, but they saved the Toad, darn it. 1, because it's a nice thing to do, but 2, to lock the other guys in there. We locked the Flux in the room.
That was a good call. That was a good move.
Yep.
And then, of course, the Toad thanks them for saving him from a life of, what's the wording he uses? Sheer, terrible, existential,
a loop of existential. I'm blanking on it.
Some sort of fun wordplay of existential crisis.
Yes, ad infinitum existential crisis of some variety. I don't know. So Jesse and MT, they're in a more open and honest, place, really good, and also the Toad just kind of flies off, hops off. Okay, that brings us to episode 5.
All right, episode 5, the parasite car. What do you think? This might be the first time we kind of differ, Dragon. What do you think of this one?
I gotta tell you, this one. I liked it, but it appealed to me more on the rewatch. I did like it.
Okay, I like it okay. I'm not crazy about it. I do think that the parasitic stuff is maybe purposefully off-putting, the human hands on the deer and stuff like that.
That is weird. Yeah.
How he's in the mouth the whole time, all that stuff is and like I said, it's pretty deliberately off-putting, but still off-putting is off-putting. I don't know. I didn't necessarily like the parasite character all that much. I get thematically what they're doing with it. It's kind of it's sort of like a build up to the mall gang, and then we're I felt like the parasite thing was sort of how how parasitic Jesse's friends could be. It's but I don't know. Thematically, it's fine. I just don't really think conceptually this car had all that much going for it besides hey, they meet this one character who's a parasite.
True, but again, that's what I'm saying. The thematic crux you just went through, that's what really jumped out to me. Again, on the rewatch especially, where again, the whole he makes a friendly and helpful impression. Perry kind of gives that off initially, and he kind of builds and he grows literally. Which increasingly sinister and manipulative as it goes forward.
Okay, I will say the best part of the episode was the final animation on the Alan Dracula transformations as he's getting preposterously big.
Yeah,
that was fun.
That's the thing, it's again, it's the whole we're paralleling the Jesse story really well with that, and also the other side of the story too is with the MT side of things here is that the lesson is. You could you can't pick and fix your friends like Alan Dracula without compromising who he is, which of course is the MT story of you not being able to change, because she is by definition a stagnant character that she physically cannot change, which is going to be a big story point later. And that's the thing, Alan Dracula, we can't change him or change who he is or make him a little bit more like. But again, there is something kind of powerful in that. We can't change people. We can't all fix our faults or our flaws or the flaws of others, or else we rob them of their individuality and who they are. In this case, we can't just like make Alan Dracula more helpful, because he would cease to be Alan Dracula, which is the point of the episode.
Okay, but speaking of Alan Dracula, I do think this is where he, pun not intended, this is where he does kind of come alive as a character. And I think the scene that makes it come alive is, where basically Alan Dracula thinks of two things, Dragon. He thinks of his friendship with Tulip and Jesse, and he thinks of grass.
More often than not, grass. Yes.
So that to me, like that right there is pretty much all I needed to kind of like start liking this deer.
Yeah.
He is pretty much a typical deer, but I do think it's realistic that it's like, he's grown some sort of fondness for the people that are with him, but still, he's mostly just about the grass.
Yeah, also, a few things here, of course, with the shape-shifting. We push him to the max of what we could do without Dracula in terms of shape-shifting this episode. We do some it's quite horrifying in place, and we have the second head pop out in terror. It's like, oh god, it's so. Oh, again, this is Infinity Train really swings for it, man. That's what you gotta love the show for, man. They really go for it in places, especially later. Oh, yeah. But a few other stuff to make the runway. Which thing? Here's the thing that cracks me with the runway on the ridge. I completely forgot about this. It's a runway fairway. It's a golf course that's been transformed into a runway model. Oh, it's so funny because I noticed in the back. And wait a minute, it says, "Oh yeah, runway fairway." That's what it is. Perry did have style inside Alan Dracula. I gotta give him points there. I like the food pyramid. Two things, real quick. We establish a big thing with Tulip here. She had two options when she separated from Tulip. She had two options. One, she could was going to come back later. She could either be wiped and become a new reflection, have her memory wiped and become somebody else's reflection, therefore kind of starting anew, or she keeps her memories fully intact, but she becomes a Fleck. She becomes a mirror cop essentially. And honestly, at the end of the day, MT is a little of both. She has her memories, but she's also, again, she's kind of her own reflection. So by proxy, again, I love that she's kind of a combination of both options, which is kind of interesting. And last little side note, I really like the dialogue in this episode, especially between Jesse and MT, because I think they're really hitting off. I know it's a silly gag. I think the bathroom joke's really cute. I can't explain it. I just love, like, it's a valid question, but it's an uncomfortable question all the same. Like, wait a minute, you're a mirror. Do you go to the bathroom? And it's just, okay, question time's over. I love that. I love the blushing. It's a really cute gag.
Okay. Next up, we have Chapter 6, The Lucky Cat Car. This one was solid. I don't think I liked it as much as the cat episode in the last season. I think to me my favorite bit in the whole episode might have been the crane game thing.
Yeah.
And again, it's just kind of like more points towards like Alan Dracula as a character. Like, yeah, he's he's very powerful with the shape shifting and he's pretty lovable, but at the end of the day, he just wants to eat the grass.
Yep, it's like Charizard and Pokemon. He's always just like sleeping or doing something until like you get stirred. Until okay, game time.
So, what do you think of the return of the cat? Because honestly, I think maybe there could have been more done with it. Honestly,
I definitely think if we're going to do any more with Infinity Train, I think the cat's going to come back in a little bit more of a substantial role. I think we kind of set that up here, where again the cat has a grudge against the Apex gang, which let's put a pin in the Apex gang for a second here. But the cat, I like the cat. Of course, the cat kind of a loving homage to Earth, the cat being the idea. But no, seriously, I love the idea of the cat since the events of season 1 has basically gone back to that hill where we met her in the first place, and she's built like a Midway Mania kind of carnival. In tow, and it's kind of made a big attraction. This is kind of like a big referential car with all these sorts of references, like Randall and the donut holder. Like, there's a number of callbacks in this episode. The crystal guys. This is the fun reminiscent car. And honestly, this one, I gotta be honest, this one seems really. This is just a really fun one because like carnivals can be fun and the
Yeah,
midways
sure,
especially.
sure. And
This one.
we get to see a lot of the carnival games. It's a very competitive episode.
I love the branding of the Infinity Train where we have we have like the roaches or like kind of like one of those games where it's like you're racing little pieces. You get to the end of it and you have like all these fun like you Randall's in the squirt gun game like that sort of stuff. It's quite fun.
And of course, I love the payoff to the Toad.
Yes, the Toad returns.
Oh my god, I was not expecting to see him again.
Was your name Terrence the whole time? No.
No. Please pay to kick me.
Oh god, please. This Toad is just too funny for his own good. But yes.
I honestly think the Toad kind of stole the whole season.
He did. Okay, better than Hypnotoad.
Oh yeah, easily better than Hypnotoad.
Yes. Okay.
I honestly never found Hypnotoad all that funny, to tell you the truth.
People went nuts for Hypnotoad.
I know they did. I
never quite got why. Anyway, so but yeah, so we slowly breach the inequality. We softly breach the inequality issue, which is going to be a big thing in the next episode with the whole point differential.
Sure.
The passengers get more points than the projections of the train. And of course, I think there's a bit of a theme, a little underlying theme within predestined failure, which of course Carnival games, predestined failure. The system's rigged, as in you're not supposed to win. So there's a little bit of that. So it's kind of framing, it's like vaguely framing MT's big story of the season here. And we have a really sweet moment this episode, one of the most heartfelt moments of the season here. That sweet moment of Jesse saying. Of Jesse explaining to MT that you're coming with me when I get off the train. Like you need to come with you. Totally. It's kind of like the Dylan you bought it. It's like Dylan having a ticket bought for him in Bates Motel.
Oh god!
So you bought me a ticket. Yeah, of course I bought you a ticket. That whole thing. So point being, the goal of the season is established in this episode. It's quite big. And of course, the claw machine runner is just hysterical with Tiki and Dragon, which you already went through. So, point being, our guys, they have the race, they get to the 1,000 points and get out of there. Unfortunately, they're kind of deterred by Alan Dracula's lust for grass. And then we learn the big competitor was Grace, the leader of the Apex Kids. This is a new faction we have not met on the Infinity Train yet. There's a big rivalry between the Cat the Apex gang, and we have this great final setup shot of Grace with like all these numbers on her arm and the compact. Both things are going to be played hugely.
That was chilling, honestly. That was maybe my favorite cliffhanger of the season.
Yeah, of course. These are both
and honestly, if we do a book 3, I definitely think the Apex gang is. I definitely think there's a lot of unexplored ideas with them that we can. Kind of dive into.
Like, not for a moment do I think the Cat and Apexing aren't going to factor into a 3rd season.
Sure. But that leads us into Chapter 7, the Mall Car. This was a very good episode, Dragon. To me, it kind of surprised me because I honestly wasn't expecting the Apex gang to be kind of like a one-and-done storyline. Like, after that cliffhanger, I was honestly expecting Grace to be the main villain of the rest of the season, but what they did in this one episode was pretty damn good. Sorry. Oops. And like you said, it talks a lot about the inequality and the prejudice, and that's kind of like the main theme of this episode.
Yeah, I mean, we go the full Pinocchio or AI, depending on your persuasion here. We go the full Pinocchio with the parallels to Pleasure Island on the train here. With the idea of like, okay, this is the place this is the section of the train you go to when you want to rack up your numbers. You want to indulge in the bad behavior and the flawed personality traits that are just going to get you like higher and higher numbers. Basically, could end up being as bad as Amelia from last season. Of course, Amelia being the previous conductor who had like all of these the numbers all the way up to her neck. She did a lot of bad stuff. So yeah,
honestly, the idea of a gang that kind of revels in getting their number higher, that's really exciting to me. And like I said, I think more can be done with that.
Absolutely, the world building is indeed really clever, and I love my favorite bit of the world building. My favorite bit of the whole Apex concept is how it's addressment of the shift in status quo from Amelia as the conductor back to 1-1, because 1-1 was the original conductor. I don't know who was there before, which is an interesting question if we go any further. Like, who built 1-1? But anyway, the point being, we go from 1-1 to Amelia, and for the longest time, I can assume Amelia was the conductor. And of course, with switching back to like kind of a proper system, there's going to be a number of people on there who don't know what happened.
Right,
Probably, and this leads to the cult of fathers, because I don't know if you noticed this, Steve. Again, all these the Apex gang, they had the markings on their face. That's a nod to the conductor, because remember he had essentially had like a little kind of like just a little heart monitor look on his face. A little heart. Monitor.
Yeah. I remember.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I love that they all have that kind of marked on their faces, and they love the old conductor style. And of course, the fatal flaw of the old conductor style was it brings up the question of reality, which again fills in the it fits into the little MT story. Like, what is real? How do you define yourself as a real person? That sort of stuff. It's about running away from your problems, indulging in the distraction, indulging in the non-reality, which is what the old conductor was all about, which is what these guys believe in. They believe in the old conductor versus this whole like, hey, let's help people get off the train, learn from their problems, which they're just thinking it leads to all this sort of descent, man. It's really fascinating stuff. It is.
Yeah.
So let's see. I think. Oh yes, we have some really. Yeah.
No, I was just going to kind of get into the cliffhanger, but if you have anything else.
Yeah, real quick. Really startling. Like Simon, man. Like that guy was super cruel to MT and Alan Drack. I remember they're like saying, you're only good to me when you're useful, or else you get wheeled, which is just horrifying. I'm going to throw you in front of the train.
Yeah, he was a very quick kind of like these two are kind of like, I would describe them as maybe Lotso-esque. In terms of like, they're very nice on the surface, but you can just tell bubbling underneath. It's like, there's definitely these are some twisted folks we're dealing with, and like I keep saying, I don't necessarily think we've seen the last of them.
Also, harpoon packs are really cool. I just want to get that before we address like the big matchstick moment of the whole season.
Right.
Okay, so basically we say, okay, screw these guys. We're out of here as they're running away. Jesse, he's basically prevented with a fork in the road, a moment of changes, and you become one of the bad kids, which basically you fall into your same habits and basically you undo everything that you've been doing so far, and you're falling to the ultimate sense of peer pressure, which he does not. Does the right thing and going with a good old MT, and while he's running, something happens, Tiki. What happens?
His number gets to 0, which means he gets to exit the car. Which
let's check the number on this. This can't possibly be the case. We saw last season, and last season the number goes to 0 on episode 10. This is not episode 10. This is 7. This is madness.
Yeah, which means Tulip is pretty much left on Muir. Tulip is pretty much left on her own for God knows how long at this point, and we've got the Flux, on her tail, and there's not much she can do about it. Pretty crazy matchstick moment type stuff happening here, folks.
That's a phenomenal ending. Just that whole, like, she can't come through the thing. She can't come through, and it's like, oh God, no! And now she's just literally the Flex are there when they turn on the sand. Like, oh God.
All right, so next episode, this is easily one of my favorites, the Wasteland. I love how it's not a car, it's just the Wasteland. So cool.
That's where we're at.
My God, Ben Mendelsohn, give him some sort of like voice acting Emmy, man. Like guest voice actor Emmy. Because I love Mendelsohn in this. I really think this is like it's like a two-man play almost.
Absolutely. Again, it's like not. I can't say a bottle. I can't put. It's kind of bottle episode.
Yeah, I think it's a bottle episode, and I think and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's very compelling as a bottle episode.
Yeah, I'm just saying because it is a bottle episode. It's just the landscape's a little different as well. But yeah, absolutely, it's a bottle episode. I don't know why I was doubting it, but yes. So we trap our two opposing sides together in the wasteland, which of course is a setting that we established early last season, and it was like a brief thing. Basically, we set up, okay, Tulip can't just walk off the train, or else she's gonna be stuck in the wasteland, which is a bad thing. Basically, you'll be chased by roaches. Ain't gonna be pretty. So we've established that. So now it's like the sandworms in Beetlejuice. You never want to leave the house. So Mace, I love the bit where Mace basically in running away, Mace loses his legs. He's like gets hit by one of the. When the trains, like they kind of swap around now and again, like basically the wheels get over there, and it's a really well designed train. They follow the tracks and legs cut off, all mirror goo there. It's the most graphic episode of the whole series. But again,
easily.
graphic yet again mirror. So little wiggle room there. But yeah, this
Gotta love
episode
those cartoon violence loopholes, Dragon.
I love it. I love it. It's like the robot rule, man. I'm telling you, it's so it's a great. We have great dialogue here, and again, the setup of the fugitive and the wounded pursuer. It's a great, it's a phenomenal setup there. It goes together like Reese's peanut butter cups. It's it's the chocolate and the peanut butter effect.
And when Dracula Groots himself,
that he does. Let's see. So, of course, I love. Now, I want to make this clear. Something I didn't mention earlier with Jesse. I hate the Travel Buddy song.
I do too. I wasn't a fan of that.
The Travel Friends song, I never liked it. However, Ben Mendelsohn's song was a lot better. The whole Exit Day song, that was haunting.
Right.
The whole scene about Exit Day. I'm like, basically, you got the door, but you weren't able to get through, were you? So again, basically, we have like this great. The real question is he just? How much pain is he in right now? Because I feel like he's like a delusional dying man. I feel it's kind of the angle of like he's just basically saying what he's saying because he knows he's a goner. Mm-hmm. It's a question of like how fatal his wound is right now because he just live without legs, or is he? I like to assume he's just kind of dying slowly. That's what I think.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I read the episode. I read it as like he's he knows he's gonna die. And with that being said, he's just kind of like, he's not giving Mir Tulip any slack at all. He's just kind of like, sort of like the proverbial devil on her shoulder whispering in her ear in this sense.
Yeah, essentially he's giving voice to our internalized character. He's voicing all the doubts of our internalized character. We'll never say this to herself. We're not going to be in her head specifically, but we're voicing this in a conversation between these two that have a lot of history between them. Like I love it when she calls him a coward, and we get into the big existential thing of like existence with purpose. Like you live in existence with purpose, but you don't live a life, which she does. It's a really interesting kind of dichotomy between the two of them, and of course, I love earlier in the episode. I love like the bits like the sunglasses. When she's fleeing from them initial, like she closed the door and like there's a sunglass hut thing, and basically just an arm pops out of the sunglasses. It's just it's awesome, and just crushes the spray paint can.
Right.
And they're on the mat. Really great. The staging. Basically, this episode might be the best one that turned out of the whole bunch. If I'm being frank, this one looks the best in terms of all the beats and just the.
I would say so. Yeah, I think it's between this and episode 4.
I'm saying episode 4 might be the best. I'm saying this is one of those probably the best produced of the whole.
Sure.
I mean, 4 and 8 are definitely the highlights of the season. That's pretty. Anyway, so let's see. So the existential questions of a dying Fleck are really on stage here. The idea of his purpose is to serve others, as he says. That's what your purpose should have been. If you were a Fleck, you would serve a grand purpose, exactly like me. And it's quite interesting. Basically, the end point with MT is she's basically doubting, like, oh god, my friendship. The really haunting element of the episode is Mace bringing up the fact of you were put on this train. Even going back to the first season, your whole existence might have been just to help the other passenger.
Oh god! Oh my god! Yeah, that was an existential mindfuck there, Dragon.
Like that's the thing, and this is the fascinating thing about me, Mace.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of the whole like if you're a character in a video game, what's your purpose? That whole existential crisis thing.
Yeah, and this is the thing that really fascinates me. Where I think Mace, because he's dying, is given a new perspective he never even considered before. I think that's why this is dawning on him in this moment, where he's getting this conversation with her, and he's saying, you know what? In speaking to purpose, maybe you getting away from us in the first place was just, you ultimately still in the same position you're at, as in your friendship was never real, and that's what really fuels her, like, her hope to get a number is kind of basically she hits a low point at the end of the last episode. Her low of lows was end of the line sliver. That was low of lows. Like she's doomed. She's without Jesse, and now it's like, okay, I have a new goal. I'm going to get a number. I'm going to get off the stream. I'm going to prove that I'm real in some variety. Kind of the AI goal of it all. I'm real. I'm David. I'm real.
Oh God, a much better version of that. Yes.
So speaking of which, I love how she gets back on the train. I love the idea like she builds momentum and she jumps because the train has, and this is really a fascinating thing. We're getting the whole preordained purpose thing where, because she was created on the train, she can't just go off into the wasteland, this unexplored area of the Infinity Train saga. She walks off into the wasteland, and basically she's being like a magnet. She's being pulled back and just slow. She gets just enough, jumps in the air, and boop, back using a little harpoon device. And of course, we can't go forward, Tiki, without mentioning the most haunting moment of the episode.
I would maybe say the most haunted moment of the series, honestly.
Yes. So,
Main character straight up murder somebody, Dragon.
Mace
Just
did not want
straight up
her.
murder.
Mace was gonna go out, even if he was gonna go out with her, man.
Sure,
Like,
sure.
you're not getting back on that train. You found hope, man. My purpose is to make sure you don't exist anymore. And she takes him to the wheel, man.
Oh God.
Ain't a wheel of fortune, old friend.
I don't know about you, but I'm having a ball.
just like, oh, guys, so graphically, you see like the liquid coming out of the metal of the face, and, like, the skin thing that is in the skin suit that is weird. Oh God, it's so graphic. But again, it's not red, so we're fine.
All right. Okay, so that leads us into the penultimate episode, Chapter 9, The Tape Car. Man, this had some really, really outstanding world building in it, Dragon.
It did. We got to see a little bit of how the sausage is made within Infinity Train. We got to see like how exactly it works inside the train here, where we see how people are brought to the train. Her idea is, okay, I'm gonna jump into a pod. And by the way, really one of the awesome design. There's so much great design work in this episode alone, Tiki. So many great like logical callbacks. Where okay, the fake conductor from last season essentially took parts of the train, including this pod. This pod is the head of the old conductor, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was so genius. So we take the old head of the conductor, and that's how she was housed in there, because it's a pod, darn it. And that's how we bring them from point A to point B, and they're all shown this 1-1 doc, which, by the way, in case you weren't aware, they had this little documentary thing. Basically, these little 2-minute shorts of 1-1, like 10 little 2-minute shorts.
First of all, I love these, and second of all, I totally need an Infinity Train attraction with 1-1 is the person who like tells you what to do in case of a breakdown. Like, I need a 1-1 safety spiel in my life, Dragon.
My favorite little detail, it's so simple. I love how we keep putting 1-1 in hats, and it just looks adorable, and it's funny. Like, seeing 1-1 the conductor's hat was priceless.
Oh my God.
Also, we name dropped Atticus.
Yeah, I wish we would have seen him once.
Technically, we saw him once, but we didn't see him like truly once. You know,
yeah.
We didn't see we didn't get to hear that beautiful Ernie Hudson. We didn't. Unfortunately, we didn't. Anyway, but yeah, so I love design work, love logistics, and basically we get to see, so how the tapes, of course, the tape was an integral part of last season. The tape is like, that's the big, we learned about Tulip, exactly what she was going through, the whole divorce and everything. We learned all that, and we also learned about Amelia. Basically, all of our huge reveals were through a tape, but we don't have a VHS tape this season. Instead, we get to see how the VHS tape is made. It's like the Willy Wonka's chocolate factor for the nostalgia, such as Tiki and myself. This is like, oh God, we're seeing how the magic was made back in the 90s. Oh God.
So, Dragon, I will say one thing that I did. I mean, it's effective, but I really didn't need it. Man, that close up on the dead bearded dragon, man. The multiple times we see the close up on the dead bearded dragon.
Oh, I think you mean lizard, but yeah.
Yeah, lizard. Yeah.
I'm saying because I was thinking, did I see the same show we see the bearded dragon? But
no, I think I'm mixing up a bearded lizard with a Komodo dragon.
I hear you. You're right. It was really basically a little rewind thing as we peer into somebody else's film. I love the gravity of it. I love when she goes down there, like kind of this farm of people being. Basically, their memories are use these little lice spots. Let's call them. Use these little lice spots, and they basically pull the memories and imprint it on tapes, which eventually get made into VHS tapes, or it's just like these little film strips, in this giant like fog-like area. It's really creepy, and just it just looks into it like, oh God, like I did. It sounds like she was putting a rock in there and she just overshot and she basically cracked the tank film.
Yeah.
So haunting, and you're right. We rewound these uncomfortable bits. And I love like there's a little detail where we have like an absentee father as like the guy. We got to see a few people get their numbers imprinted on them, and we saw a few clips like the father is an absentee father. His number's in the thousands, which is fast. I want to see that guy's season. I really do. Like, oh God, being an absentee father, it's like 5,000, number of 5,000 plus. Like, okay, that's interesting, man. We haven't seen like a full grown person on this show. Anyway. But yeah, so we have the really fascinating stuff. It's definitely, honestly, all this stuff seems like stuff we're going to be going in the future with Infinity Train. If we go deeper and deeper as we go forward in the seasons of Infinity Train, like, where the heck, what's the deal with this train, man? So, the heartbreaking moment where Tulip MT is unable to get a number. We're just she puts her hand out and in front of Lizard Girl, and zoop, just gets phased right through as if she doesn't matter, and she's wailing on the whole thing. And then who shows up?
Oh my god, Dragon! I will say this is probably the best cliffhanger of the season. I mean, it's 1-1. 1-1 shows up, but not just 1-1 in the guise of the conductor.
Well, the Stewart bot. Remember the Stewart was
right, the Stewart. Yeah, not the conductor. Yeah, sure.
But he is the conductor, so it's anyway. But yes.
So that, I mean, first of all, it's like I love how it's like for one brief second you're like, wait a minute, the Stewart's back. Oh God. Like, how does that work? And then you're like, oh, yeah, it's 1-1. Okay.
Like, you know what's genius about it, though? It's the fact that when you look back in the first season, when the Stewart opened its face, there was nothing in there. It was doing this little clicking noise. And as we see it now, okay, it was empty because 1-1 wasn't in there.
Sure.
All right, so yes, grand finale time here, folks. The number car.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, Dragon. This was a solid enough wrap-up, but I felt like it played it maybe a little safe. Like, it pretty much, it was a little by the numbers. Not bad.
I think it kind of subverted where you expected it to go. I expected it to be kind of like, well, she's going to be complacent. She's going to be happy about where she is on the train. But because who can 1-1 not sway in this world? But no, we went really bold with that. I really liked it.
Okay, well, I did really love. I first of all, I don't necessarily agree. The whole time I kind of felt like she was going to find a way out.
I was in it, man. I hoped she would, but I didn't think. I was wondering, like, I mean, what 1-1's basically saying, you serve a purpose. And that's kind of where the episode starts. We're like, hey, you're serving a purpose.
So I love the fact that the whole episode 1-1 is in this logic crisis.
Yes. But you think about what's trippy about this, Tiki, is that we have a similar climax to the first season, where a tulip goes up against the conductor as this big existential. Discussion essentially, but now we have it within the new status quo. It's quite trippy. Like, oh god, it's the same ending, but different players.
But Dragon, I mean, honestly, you just kind of hit it on the head where it's like, I like this episode, but it's by no means my favorite of the season because, yeah, you're right. It is very similar to the finale of the first season.
Yeah,
I mean, nothing bad, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm not trying to poo-poo the episode by any means. I'm just saying, like, it's certainly in my top 5 of the season. It's certainly in my upper half, but I wouldn't say it's like maybe in my top 3.
I really like the interesting line we walk with 1-1, where he's not a villain, but his programming and the system in play kind of makes him our antagonist, which is kind of shocking. Like, oh god, because when 1-1 says, oh yeah, the sanding her would be a solution. Yeah. It's like, oh god, that was the friendly one. But yeah, it's just basically MT. She reflects on Jesse and giving perspective as to their journey and what happened there. We have some really funny classic 1-1 lines where it says, "Yeah, don't expect to get paid equally." There's a gender inequality. Oh god, it's a fun little political asides he got in there, which is really funny. Mm-hmm. Fast forward to the recap with Jesse and Noah. Basically Jesse explaining, "Oh, here's where I went." But this is really good. Though we get to see what we didn't see in the first season. What happens when you get off the train? We get to see Jesse's literally. It's been like a day or so, and he's still like, "Oh God, brother, here's what happened." Okay, so sit down. Let me spin you a yarn here. And now let me ask you this question. Let me ask you a spinning top question, as it were.
Okay.
If probably a bad analogy, but do you think the train wanted Jesse and MT to have this resolution, or do you think it was because Jesse was brought back onto the train because he was out, and that was the whole thing? He's like, in process, he should not be in process. He should be off the train. And 1-1 is baffled by this. Now, I don't think 1-1 brought him back. I can only assume the train has an imperative where the train did this.
You know what? I'm glad that you're bringing this up because one of my issues with this episode is that we don't really know how Jesse gets back onto the train.
I can only assume the train detected that he still has a problem, therefore he brought him back, and it was linked with that. Maybe the train wanted that resolution. I can only assume it's the train that played.
You won't disagree with me though that it's left pretty damn vague.
It is. I mean, you're not wrong. That's why I'm left to speculate. And again, hopefully, I don't know, maybe in the future we'll clarify this. But that's the only logic I can deter from it. But I mean, basically, Jesse explains that is his problem, which then leads to the paradox. We're kind of distracted from really fully processing. yeah, how does that work? Where it's like, okay, 1-1's confused by a 2. We're all good. It's, that sort of thing. So, of course, really, I do like the intensity of here where Steve comes back and he's a good cop no more. His partner was killed, man, and Bradley Whitford's mad. That was great. I love the intensity within, basically, as one is, what do I do? Because he then puts the new number on Jesse. But again, Jesse's problems are all solved except for this. It's like, for like, God, what do we, what do we do now? And it's just this chaotic sequence. I think the solution. This is what I really like about the last episode. I think the solution.
The solution is very good. I'm not going to deny you. I'm not going to deny that. I mean, I think
an eloquent solution.
I honestly think it works on it's very symbolic, Dragon. It works more on a symbolic level than a pure.
He uses a reflection.
But yeah,
he used the thing that kept getting her down the whole season.
Yeah.
But and of course, I love this one's like, sure, whatever. Just like, okay, whatever. Let's just do it. And Alan Dracula honestly, Alan Dracula technically gets the best animated shot in the whole season.
He does.
Remember, Alan Dracula gets the death, gets to kill Steve, and when he kills Steve, it's like the best, it's most anime-esque shot in the whole thing. God, but yeah, friendship saved the day. Grass and friendship saved the day. Make no mistake. So our finale. So MT brought into the real world, renamed a lake because she can finally look in a lake, which is kind of beautiful when you think about it. She's unburdened. She's now unburdened that she can take in the beauty of the world around her, not fearing someone popping through the reflection or anything. It's quite nice.
I will say that's a more satisfying rename of a character than a certain other rename of a character that we got recently. Star Wars.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. Oh, okay, I got you. It's more like a last name, but sure, okay.
Oh, yeah, but still.
That's what I'm saying. I thought you were talking about, like, oh, God, what is he talking about? But I got you now. I got you. But we're kind of like, how do you feel about the ending? We're kind of breaking the laws of nature with the mirror person in our world, but I don't care. It's kind of an outlaw season.
I don't care. I legitimately don't care. You hit the nail on the head with that. It's just like, I think there might be room to explore that. The way I see it is that she just basically like weighs a lot and is shiny and you through her, but that's really about it.
That's what I'm saying. I like that as an outlaw season, so the ending is quite fitting. It's an outlaw season. We don't care. Throw the rules out the window. She's in the world. You wanted these two kids, to kind of get together in a sense. I won't speculate romance, or I know people are going really shipping crazy with this. Let's just say, for the sake of our friends, man, you want to see her in the real world get what she wants, get to be seen as a person, not a player in the narrative. So, but yeah, I do wonder though. Honestly, if they really wanted to, remember the train was falling apart at the end when she left. Now, if 1-1 weren't so calm, cool, and collected about it, part of me would assume if there's some finale to this season, the train might completely fall apart.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't think it's going that way. I think they're definitely hoping for a season 3. But the point being, I think there's a nice sense of finality if you want to look at it that way. If not, it's fine.
I would be happy with this as the final season, especially with the whole mirror theme. Season 1, season 2 mirror each other, double.
It's quite satisfying, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Final thoughts then. Unless you got anything else.
No. I'm good. Final thoughts. I mean, I don't know. It's funny. What
image?
Oh, yeah, right. It's funny because I do think that season 1 as a whole, I feel like comes together more than this one does. And maybe the characters, I do think the characters are, just generally speaking, a little bit stronger than in season 2. But I do think that season 2 has a little bit better of a through line to it. It's a little bit more thematically rich. So I'm divisive about it. I'm of two minds. I think they did a really good job with the thematic quality of this season and the storytelling and everything. Now, as far as the like I said, it does take a little while to get going, and I think season 1 is much more kind of like it grabs you right from the start and it doesn't let go. I think season 1 arguably maybe has the more dramatic moments, especially with the Atticus death. I don't really think we get anything on that level in this. We certainly get the matchstick moment, which is dramatic in its own right, but I don't know, man. I don't think it's as good as season 1, but I do think it's very good in its own right. So, I sorry if that's like an underwhelming final thought, but kind of losing steam here. I'm sorry.
Just a little clarification. That's an Atticus death in quotes because he did in fact live.
Oh yeah. You're right.
I just want to make in case anyone's like, "Oh God, they killed my dog." Like, don't worry, folks. He's all good. He's all good.
That's what I'm saying. That was the power of that moment, man.
It was though. I mean, that's the frame wondering. Oh God, is that why he's not in the season? No, don't worry, folks. It's okay. It's okay.
Oh God.
No, okay. I would echo many of your sentiments with my final thoughts. That it's a bumpy start, but it still has it, man. It still has it. Darn it! It's really good storytelling. It's what I want to see on Cartoon Network with these original shows they have. They're putting up there. It's season 2 does get to the root of the train's purpose, which is interesting. It opens up a lot of possibilities if they were to come back to it again. Like they're already kind of they would end on a high note if they capped it off here. And again, I don't know if they're going to get renewed or not. But this season was broaching on asking the big questions, and I did love it when we did that. And I'm perfectly satisfied with it. Yes, I wish it was stronger. And if you want to put them side by side, the first 2 seasons. First season only has like 1 bum episode. It's not even a bum episode. It's just like, it's Crystals, I don't really care. That's kind of the thing where it's like, okay, it still has a little bit of a catchy song in there, and that's really about all that episode has. It's like like 5 minutes wasted of the whole series, really, and then the other 5, it's pretty solid. Regardless, you put that against this, you have maybe like 1 or definitely 2 to 3 episodes. Like, it's like outside of Wayne Knight.
Yeah, for sure.
Like outside of Wayne Knight, it's a bumpy.
It's one of those situations where, like, I feel like the highs are maybe a little higher, and the lows are definitely lower.
That's a better way of phrasing it. I wish I phrased it. But yes, but so season 2 was definitely was a solid season. Just took a little while getting there, but seriously, folks, check it out. Check out this series as a whole, man. I know. Let's see where they're going to go with the season 3. But you know what? Owen, Dennis, excellent work on this, man. Congratulations. All right.
So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. We're gonna have some big stuff coming up. And Claude Karinga, thanks for joining us. We're going to see if we can get an Owl House podcast going for you. We've got a limited amount of streaming time, so if we do an Owl House podcast, I'm guessing they'll maybe be like 10 minutes a pop or something like that. Nothing that's too long. But hope you guys enjoyed this, and thanks so much for watching. See you guys later. Please pay to kick me.